the images we will use as guides for these Celtic canes, the bar, that's the never-ending bar, and also the corner. Now, to start with, for this specific cane, I am making first a mix. The first is 2 pearl white, 2 white. Second is 2 gold, 1 yellow. Third is 2 gold, simple. Fourth is 2 copper, 1 bronze. And the last one is 2 bronze and 1 alizarin crimson, and then a little bit of black. That's like half part of black. Of course, you don't have to do this specific one. You can do it much simpler, just with 2 colors, one that would be light and one that would be dark. But here it is, the Skinner blend with the 4 mixes that I used. And once I get the Skinner blend done, I will be adding the black just on the side. And you will see in just a minute. First, that is on the thinnest setting. Then I am getting the black on the thinnest setting as well, and then I will just place little bits and pieces here and there right at the edge. And I will keep running on the Skinner blend. In order to get this specific Skinner blend for the cane, it's going to be a little bit of work. And again, you don't have to do this. I love this specific type of mix because it can give the impression of wood, of metal, you name it. And working it this way is the only way to get those swirls inside. So first I have a humongous plug that I am going to push in to make it smaller. After which I will cut it in 2 in length, so it will be not just more manageable, but also to be able to work on it in order to get the swirls in the canes that I need. And it will end up in 4 pieces. I will take one of the pieces all the way to the end so you can see how it is done. But again, you don't have to do it this way. You can just do it with a simple black and white. You see that I mirrored it. I first cut it in 2 and mirrored it. When you cut it in 2, don't cut it right in the middle. Cut a little bit more on one side because you want that white, the lighter area, to be a little bit off center. But as I was saying, you can do just with the light and the dark color, just to show, you know, where the stripe of the cane goes under and when it is above. So you see, I have cut it in 2, and then I will just keep rolling it in a plug and getting it through the pasta machine. Make sure that you count how many times I do it. I will have to end up, my final stripe has to be 1 1/4 inch wide. But I did pass it once through the pasta machine, and this is 1/2. It will end up divided in 2 again. So I did it once through the pasta machine, then I narrow it down, and I will go with it through the pasta machine again, and then I plug it again. And you will see when I cut it in 2 that it starts getting those swirls. But you don't get them until you do it several times. So you see that I've narrowed it down even more, and I will take it through the pasta machine again. But you see, every time I am manipulating it to make it narrower. So again, I will be rolling it. And get rid, whenever you have that white spot gets too wide, get rid of it, because it will mess up your whole thing. So again, roll it in a plug, narrow it down, then go again through the pasta machine. It is a lot of work, but you have seen the results are absolutely spectacular. So it's really worth it. And whenever you have time, you can make a few plugs like this to have them on hand whenever you want to do something. And again, I plugged it, narrowed it down, and I will go again through the pasta machine with it. And again, plugged it, narrowed it down. And this time I will cut it in two, and notice the swirls starting to appear. And now I will work only on this quarter of the plug. Just keep plugging, rolling it, plug it, narrow it down, then roll it through the pasta machine. You need a few more times to do that. And you see it's already close to 1.5 inches, but I still need to go like twice more through the pasta machine with it. The more you go through the pasta machine with it, the better the swirls will be. Because here, you know that normally I prefer to do my plugs narrowed down because I get a better gradient. But the thing is that when you keep doing it, when you do the plug and then go with it through the pasta machine again, and do the plug and go with it through the pasta machine again, that's when you get these specific swirls. That's when the gradient is not that refined anymore, but it starts swirling around. So now I got it to about 1 inch. And of course, when I go with it through the pasta machine, it will widen a little bit. So it will get to approximately 1.25 inches. And just keep, you know, roll with the roller over it to make it ready to go through the pasta machine, and through the pasta machine on the thickest setting. Only the very first times when you do the Skinner blend, you go through the thinnest setting because you want it to get blended faster. And you see now I have it at 1.25 inches. So I will put it aside and then start working on the other 3/4 of the initial Skinner blend plug until I get all of them at 1.25 inches. I ended up by doing just 3. I worked 1.5 altogether. One thing, do not throw away the Skinner blend remains, because you can just layer them one on top of the other and get one more strip that you can use in the end for the simple Celtic knot, because right now we are doing the bar. So you see I am cutting and piling them up until I get 8 thicknesses of the thickest setting per little pile. And they have to be about 3/4 inch. You need to end up with 1/2 inch. Now to wrap them, I am using that mix that is alizarin crimson, gold, and red. And I will cover the sides of each of these pieces with the mix. And once the mix is on the thinnest setting. You only want a little bit of a color of these colors on the edge of the Celtic cane stripes, just to bring it more forward. You don't really want them to be noticeable, but they really define better the lines. So once you do the wrapping in this alizarin crimson mix, then do another wrapping with black on the thinnest setting on top of the alizarin crimson mix. Then for the as I am doing this for the wallet essentially, and I decided to do the wallet into a color that once buffed will look something that will be very ambiguous, looking like metal but looking like leather as well. I have prepared this mix that is 1 part gold to 2 parts black. So once I do this mix, I will just make a big stack, fairly rectangular, so I can cut from it the pieces that go in between the strips of the Celtic cane. So we are doing the bar first, and I have to do for the middle 2 squares that have 1 corner rounded and 2 triangles. First, arrange your strips so you can get an idea about how big the fillers have to be, the fillers that go between the strips. And keep at all times the photo, the image in front of you, so you'll get a good visual direction on where you're going with it. So now that I have them arranged, I'm going to start cutting. So I need 2 round squares with the rounded corners and 2 triangles. So first I will do the squares with the rounded corner, and they are very easy to do. You just cut a square first, that is a rectangular log, and then hold on one corner and gently roll against the working table. You will have to undo all that setting that you did of the stripes, so you can place the filler logs properly. And as I said, you place them in initially just to get an idea on how big your filler logs have to be. And you might have to cut a little bit diagonally the stripes that go around to meet another stripe. But yes, you'll have to pretty much undo the whole arrangement so you can place your rounded corner squarish log properly. Don't worry about the length of them. I mean, you can trim the length with no problems. So you practically place them on opposite sides of the ends of the middle stripe. After which you place the rounded corners starting from, and always make sure that you have the dark end of a stripe against the light middle of the other stripe to give that impression of dimension. And remember, always keep that image in front of you. If you do not have a computer screen on near your working space, then just print it or even draw it if necessary. Now let's do the triangles that go on the sides. You might have to slightly unglue the other pieces so you can place the triangles properly. So the rounded pieces will have to come to towards the end of the middle stripe So you see, you have the middle stripe, then two pieces going perpendicular on it, and then the rounded pieces coming out of it pretty much. Yeah, I guess I did not cut that one properly. Let's cut. And it doesn't matter, I mean, you can do another stack of the filler anytime. And I wanted to do the filler a little bit metallic because of the pretty mica shift effect that it does whenever it's cut and sliced and then sanded and buffed. So right now we are pretty much done with the bar. All it needs to is to have the sides cut straight, as you can see. So you will be able to just put one near the other and get a continuous Celtic knot bar. Again, have the image in front of you so you can do the cuts properly. And make sure that everything is well and nicely tight in there. It is a little bit hard for me to cut properly when I have the camera on top of what I'm doing, because I cannot look from above. Usually I can see on the monitor if I cut wrong, as here I need to straighten it up. And now we need to place some more of that filler so we can get a rectangular cane. Place some triangular logs. It's okay if they are too big because you can always trim them. It's bad when they are too small, but when they are too big you can trim them to fit. So you'll have to put two triangular logs, one on each side of the rounded stripe that's at the ends, practically on the top and the bottom of the bar. And then we will also place some sheets, some layers on the top and on the bottom, because that makes for a neater cane when it doesn't just end right on the border of the stripe. I don't even know how to call these, ribbons, stripes, strips, whatever. So once you place these little triangular logs and you make the whole cane rectangular, you can practically start reducing it. Now the thing is that you want to make it square because it's much easier to reduce a square cane. So I will be reducing it until I can cut it in two, and then simply you know, join the two halves. As I said, first let's place some layers on top and on the bottom, and I will be placing two layers on each side to make a very well defined bar. So I placed one and now I'm placing the second one. And then I can start reducing it. I always like to cut my ends clean, so I don't, if I cut my ends clean, that I will not lose a lot. Because remember, I always prop my cane against the work table and I just turn it upside down all the time while I'm reducing. and that way I lose very little of the ends. So reduce it until you can cut it in two pieces that are comfortable to work with. They are not too not tall enough. And once you cut it in half, you'll see that they fit. You need to find how they fit. See how they fit absolutely perfectly. So once you will be done with it, you can just put slice after slice after slice, and they will match perfectly. Now that we are done with this, and it looks gorgeous, and notice the swirls, we can move ahead and start working on the corner. Now with the corner, you can actually do two things. You can use it as a proper corner when you want to do a frame, a Celtic knot frame, using the bar for the sides, and then you can use the Celtic knot corner for the corners of the frame. Or you can use 4 slices and make a new pattern, a new rectangular pattern. As you can see, because I don't have this to be too big, I am making the strips a little bit smaller, and I'm extending them to the point that I get them 1 inch wide and 2 inches long, and then I am going to cut them in half. So I will have 4 long ones and 8 pieces, 8 resulting pieces. And again, the same as for the bar, make sure you have the image in front of you. And notice the fillers are 2 squares, 2 rounded corner squares, 2 triangles, and 1 squarish triangle on the corner. And the same as you did with the bar, first arrange your strips so you can get an idea about the size of the filler logs. Now start the same as you would start doing a very simple Celtic knot, and I will do a simple Celtic knot at the very end, even if I already have a free tutorial about it. But just to make things faster. Now remember, these have to practically weave in and out always, and again always put the darker end of a strip against the lighter middle of the next strip. The one on the corner you will have to cut in a diagonal so it can form a nice corner there. And now you can start building on your filler logs. So remember, 2 square logs, 2 logs that are squares with a rounded corner. So let's work on these ones first, because these are the very middle of the corner cane. And also very important is the one in the corner, so the triangle that's a little bit squarish. It's pretty much like a triangle put on top of half a square. So again, first the rectangular ones, then the squarish triangle, and then replace your strips. Again, it always helps if you have the image in front of you, you will not get lost. And do not turn the whole concoction around, because you will get lost. But see, it's almost like a little bit of a basket weave if you want. Okay, now one of the rounded corner squares. Remember, hold on one corner and then gently roll on the work table, tile, whatever you have there, glass. And then place it. Whenever you have a rounded corner or a rounded anything, you will have a stripe rounding over it to meet another stripe. I did not do this in close-up because I was afraid that I would get too much out of the camera view. But I will do the simple Celtic knot at the end in a close-up, and that's when you'll be able to see how to place these stripes. Maybe I should have done that one first, now that I think of it, because it's simpler. But remember that you have, if you remember that you always have to put a dark end towards a light middle, and that you are starting the same as if you had two simple Celtic knots in the very middle, you will not have problems. And what I would suggest is to just do this first with a simple Skinner blend, so you don't have to get upset if you waste something. Make a few Celtic canes simple, and then you can go ahead and do this one. Now notice all those bits and scraps on the left. There will be actually a third tutorial on how to use those to make beads, because for the wallet we shall need a bead, like a bolo bead, that forms the closing, that keeps the wallet medallion closed so things don't fall out of it. Okay, so I am to the second square. And again, whenever you don't cut properly, it's very simple. Just put together some more of that filler mix. And once you have the formula, the 1 part gold to 2 parts black, you can make endless supplies of it. It doesn't matter if you run out or not. So the second square block, that obviously being square will have nothing rounding around it. Then one of the triangles, and remember, always keep the image in front of you. Now let's place the last strip there, and the last triangle. Make sure that everything is snug and secure, and then you can do the 2 cuts that will make it the cane fairly rectangular. and then use other filler triangles to cover up the indentations on the edges. And whoops, I cut a little bit too much, so I had to put it back. And again, if your triangles on the edges are too big, it's just fine, because you can always trim them to size. And once all those nooks between the stripes are covered with triangles, we will do on this one two wrapping layers. Only that we will do the wrapping layers only on the outside part of the corner, because two of the sides have to remain open, so you can put them together either with a bar or with other slices of corner cane. So see, I still have a little bit of a indentation there that I missed, so just place some filler in there, and then you can just trim it off to size. And then use the wrap to wrap the outside corner, which is the actual corner of the corner cane. And see, there's one more little spot there that needed a little bit of filler. And let's do a second layer, so we have everything neat and tidy. And now we can start reducing the cane, of course. Not until after making the edges straight and prim and proper. I will do a tutorial soon on how to reduce canes with minimal distortion and minimal clay loss. So see, the corner cane is a tad too big for the bar right now, but I just want to reduce it a bit so I can show you how nicely it fits the bar. See, once it's to size, it fits just perfectly, seamlessly. And there we go, we got the corner. Now I'm going to show you how you can arrange the slices in a bar, because I'm going to reduce those even smaller for the wallet. All it takes is for you to find the proper edge to put them together. And I will reduce that piece to very, very, very tiny. Now let's do the simple Celtic knot for the middle, and this one you've seen me doing before. Now that Skinner blend is made out of all the Skinner blend scraps that I had on the left, and you can already see a few beads that I made. It's not in order, I just, you know, I had to wait for some things to bake, and then so do again the same thing. Put the strip in 8 and then wrap the sides first in the alizarin crimson mix and then in black, and then again you'll have to manipulate the pieces to elongate them until they get to be about 3 millimeters wide, and don't make them wider than 1 inch. I mean thick, 3 millimeters thick, 2 to 3 millimeters thick, and no one wider than 1 inch. I think that here I actually made them like 3/4 of an inch. And work both of them, both pieces, to be nice and equal. And once you get them, trim the edges nicely and then cut in 3, so you will end up with 6 pieces this time. And again, create a stack of the filler mix, the 1 part gold, 2 parts black. Now on this one it's much easier. We know that we have a square in the middle and then 4 triangles for the 4 corners. Again, arrange your strips so you can gauge about how big your filler logs have to be, so you can cut them from the stack. And on this one I am doing a close-up. So first cut the square in the middle, the square log in the middle, and just arrange the strips around the log. And again, the dark end of one strip goes on the light middle of another strip. And now we will need 4 triangles. These are a little bit more complicated. You'll have to cut them, each piece, cut first a square and then each square cut into a triangle. Don't try to obtain them by cutting diagonally from a sheet, because it will be practically impossible to get the proper size. It's easier to do it this way. You can try, of course, but after doing so many of these Celtic knots, I know that for me it is easier to do it this way. So I'm first cutting squares and then I'm cutting the 2 sides of the triangles. Now place the base of each triangle right where the 2 strips meet. And then bring over to the tip of the triangle the longest strip. Then cut 2 remaining pieces in half and place them on the other side of the triangle. Again, careful where you place the dark end and the light end. The dark end always has to butt against the light middle of the other cane, and then gently pinch together the corners. It will resist you a little bit, and the shorter strip will have the tendency to lift, but just gently press it back in there and continue pinching together the tips, those edges, to form the tips of the simple Celtic knot. And once you do that, all we have to do is to fill with triangles those little nooks. And again, if the triangles are too big, it's just fine, because they can be trimmed to size. And one more time, I suggest that you first try this with a simpler Skinner blend, or maybe not even a Skinner blend, just a regular clay. So now I am going to wrap it in 2 layers of the mix. Start in one corner with 1 layer, but then when you start the other layer, start in a different corner. So the wrapping is on the thickest setting. And there we go, we can start reducing that. And here are all three canes, the bar, the middle, and the corner, and here are some greatly reduced ones. Happy playing!